He's never done that so far at this particular major.
Johnson to serve.
He's going to be on his guard today
Ready.
against Johnson.
Play.
An experienced campaigner. Lee Goodall alongside Leif Cyrus in the commentary position.
Love 50.
Yeah, in terms of tactics, Fritz makes for a difficult opponent. Difficult to break him down. He's so rock solid from both wings on the ground. Johnson has the bigger forehand. He's going to use his underspin backhand to try and get shots onto the forehand wing.
15 all.
Yeah, both men gifted with excellent serves, and Johnson will need to get a lot of those in today. Try and get as many free ones as he can. If he takes care of his serve today, he's got a tremendous opportunity.
It's impressive. If he strikes the ball like that, it's going to be a handful today as well.
I'm not sure which was better, that one on the half volley or this one he sets up for. Gets the spacing right, uncoils beautifully.
Yeah, Johnson.
It's a nice first game. Up and running.
First game.
I mean, everything on paper points to should point to a comfortable first round victory for Taylor Fritz, but it's never that simple, is it? I did the first match of the day on this court. Very, very comfortable victory for Victoria Azarenka, who played brilliantly, I thought, from the very first game. And the first thing she said in the post-match interview was how nervous she was. You know, all the experience that Vika has. There's Steve's coach these days, one of our colleagues, Mark Lucero. You may well be hearing his voice in the commentary box at some stage over the next couple of weeks. He's been part of the team, and he's gone straight to the tablet there.
Taylor Fritz.
That's another new feature this year. So on the 5 biggest courts, that's Arthur Ashe Stadium here on Louis Armstrong Grandstand, court 17, court 5. Coaches have access to a tablet of stats analysis.
15 love.
And, video technology on those as well. So interesting that Mark's maybe just familiarizing himself with what's on offer. Another nice feature, developments here at Flushing Meadows. Taylor, I'm sure, will have Mike Russell alongside him courtside. That's the man who does most of the travelling with him. I saw them, there he is, walking through the grounds yesterday, quickly on their way to one of the practice courts. Mike at the front of that shot. Yeah, everything, doesn't it? I mean, should point to a straightforward victory for Fritz. This is a pretty good draw on paper with the ranking gap, but you never know, do you? Never know that first match of the week, first day of the tournament.
Yeah, and against someone like Stevie Johnson with experience and hunger, he has a renewed commitment to playing.
14-15.
Yeah, you want to sort of ignore the number next to his name. You know, so often players are identified by their ranking, and you see 205 next to Stevie Johnson, and you cannot be fooled by that.
Game Fritz.
So hold a piece.
Yeah, Stevie Johnson did have a dip in performance.
First
young family at home in Southern California. Sort of recommitted himself to training and fitness and getting back to where he once was. In fact, he's trained hard. He's lost about 15 pounds in the run-up to this summer's tennis. It's shown in his results on the Challengers. Can he transfer it to majors?
With a slice well there. Expect to see a fair bit of that from Johnson. That tends to be his sort of go-to strategy, isn't it? Going for the big forehands and hitting that slice nicely off the backhand. It's a good slice, isn't it? It's not just floating those back in. Knifing some of those.
Love 30.
Years of age these days. Four titles over the years. Two down in Houston on the American clay, two on grass.
Love 40.
A couple of forehands letting Johnson down.
Early chances for the number 9 seed.
Game Fritz.
Well, it's a perfect start for Fritz.
Fritz leads 2-1 first set.
Help him shake off any early nerves, if there are any. Get his nose in front early. He's got the break. 2-1. Women's singles that lasted around 3 hours or so. So understandably, a few fans just taking a break. Get a quick drink and something to eat, and then straight back in for this all-American battle. Head-to-head, going into that in a little more detail, is probably what you would expect. Steve Johnson winning 2 of their first 3 meetings. They were a few years back, 2016, 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic. And then, as you mentioned, Lee, Taylor Fritz, as he developed his game, started moving up the rankings, got the better of the head-to-head. Victory at Wimbledon, that was a 5-set match. 2021, Los Cabos later that same summer, that was 4-4, and then Atlanta as well the same summer, 3 sets. Struggling with that forehand, isn't he?
Yeah, he's missed a number of those, and you can see the problem when you take on a guy like Fritz. He's just weaponized off both sides. I mean, his backhand is tremendous, one of the better backhands in the game. We say that a lot about two-handers, but he's got one of them, and his forehand is very solid.
Yeah, I have to admit, until I saw Taylor Fritz hitting the ball live, you know, sometimes we're lucky enough to get courtside, maybe a practice session, and I didn't appreciate how big he hits the ball off the ground. Gives it a crack, doesn't he?
He really does. And it's hitting it hard consistently.
Game Fritz. Fritz leads by 3-1 first set.
So it backs up the break. Just gives us a brief opportunity to remind you to visit the US Open app. Download the official app to follow your favorite players, track latest scores, stats, match highlights, player news and more. That's available in the App Store and Google Play Store. Official website usopen.org. There's some of the social channels you can follow the action on over the next 2 weeks. Of course, day one of 14 here in New York.
Love 15.
Yeah, the idea about attacking, it's a good one. But you've got to be careful about the ball you come into the net behind. It's got to be pretty good. It's got to make an impact. And Fritz had time to see the space, make it happen. And you talk about great attacking players, and yes, they have weapons. They have this talent of hitting the ball hard and getting to the net. That transition, the steps, but so often it's about taking time away from your opponent. I'm not sure there's a better attacking player than Roger Federer. And to a man, guys who played Federer always say, I just didn't have time. Just couldn't do what I wanted to do out there.
Yeah, it's a very good point you make, actually, and it's something Azarenka, going back to that match at the start of the day, she did very well. And I think sometimes maybe if you're a club player, whatever level that might be, and you talk about attacking tennis, the first thing that comes to mind is just hitting the ball harder, isn't it? But it's
right.
not necessarily the most effective route. Getting up the court where you're making contact with the ball is so important.
And if you watch Taylor Fritz,
15,
he's not a classic attacking player. He's not going to try and transition into the net. But he is an aggressive baseliner. He's going to hit hard and attack off the ground, which will leave him chances to make sort of more contemporary volley, the swing volley. You'll see him do more of those than sort of the traditional volleys.
Couple of huge forehands. What a start it's been for Taylor Fritz. Steve Johnson yet to settle into this contest. The 9th seed already with a double break. He gets Manovic in that final, made semis in Acapulco, quarters Indian Wells, quarters Miami. So some good consistency early in the year. Didn't have the most successful of clay court seasons.
Yeah, it's interesting. He didn't play particularly well on the clay, and surprisingly didn't have a great grass court season. You know, last year he won in Eastbourne, and this year just didn't have the rewards, but it's starting to happen for him on the hard court, certainly.
Yeah, I think it starts at Wimbledon. We were all wondering whether that might be a good major for him, especially after what happened a year earlier when he came so close to beating Nadal, didn't he, in the quarters. Match he should have won. Really. Rafa wasn't 100% fit. Somehow came through that one. Another one of those head scratcher performances from Nadal.
Exactly. How does he win those tight ones? I mean, how did he beat Daniel Medvedev in the Australian Open final? Down 2 sets to love. We do a lot of scratching our heads when Nadal is performing his magic.
But you're right.
30-15.
Really happened for him on the grass, did it, this year? For Taylor, quarters in Stuttgart, that's a 250, just after Roland Garros. And then round of 16, Queens. Lost his first match in Eastbourne. Second round, Wimbledon. But back to winning ways in Atlanta, another title.
40-50.
Yeah, the Wimbledon loss to Michael Emer, the Swedish player who was up 2-0. And that probably would have bet the house on Taylor finding a way through that. Good effort from Emer, who announced that he was retiring from tennis. Another remarkable story that unfolded as we made our way through this American summer.
Fritz.
Well, one-way traffic at the moment.
Fritz leads 5-1 first set.
On the back of the Atlanta title, beat Vukic in that final. Semis in Washington. That's a strong ATP 500 tournament. Lost to Dominor in Canada, the Aussie, who went on to make his first Masters final that week. So maybe just ran into a form player in Toronto. And then quarters in Cincy. Lost to Djokovic comfortably there. 6-love, 6-4.
15-love.
And one note on the de Minaur match. I mean, Taylor was up 5-1 in the first set. And de Minaur made a remarkable comeback to win that opener 7-6 and sort of set the table for what was to follow. You always wonder as a player, was it me or was it my opponent? You know, how did I lose that lead? A little bit of both.
30-love.
Could, in theory, run into Djokovic again if they keep winning during the first few days of this tournament. They're in the same quarter, bottom quarter of the men's draw.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibility down there, isn't there?
Tsitsipas in there as well.
40-love.
Going to be fascinating to see whether he comes through tonight against Milos Raonic on this court. It's not easy. If Milos is serving bombs.
It's Sam Querrey.
Yes.
Professional pickleball player. Former top 10er. Or actually, he might have been 11. It seems unfair for a guy with so many achievements.
Game Johnson. New balls, please.
Narrows
Fritz
the deficit.
5-2 first set.
Fritz will serve for this first set.
Second set. Johnson to serve.
He's got to start better. That's the first test for this man. Get a quick hold under his belt.
Love 15.
It's been the second week of a major once. That was on grass at Wimbledon 2016. Never passed the third round here at the US Open. Probably feel like a very long time ago for Steve Johnson these days, but one of the talking points when he was nearer the top of the rankings was his standout college career, one of the best ever at USC, right?
Yes, the USC Trojans of Southern California. I mean, it was a real launch pad for him into the pros.
So
I ran into Robbie Koenig, one of our colleagues, a little earlier today, Leaf, and he's got a sharp mind, our South African friend. And he remembered that, of course, this time last year, Taylor Fritz was fancied for a deep run, lost to Brandon Holt in the first round of qualifier. and reminded me that he was another player who played at USC.
That's
I was
right.
wondering whether that might affect the outcome today.
Well, those two guys, you know, Brandon, obviously younger, but they grew up playing a lot in the juniors together. Brandon is Tracy Austin's son. So there's a real tennis history there. And to be fair, I'm not sure Taylor was 100% healthy that day.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, a big moment for Brandon, who got his first Grand Slam win. And that's tennis, isn't it? You know, if you come out on the court and play, you're not injured. And if you're injured, you don't play. That's the way to go about it. Pretty good catch by that ball kid.
Juice.
He's actually never beaten an American at the US Open, Taylor Fritz. That is one stat that stood out for me today. The defeat to Holt last year, lost to Brooksby 2021, and Jack Sock back in 2016. So it's been a bit of a
that's a surprise, isn't it?
Stumbling block.
Yeah, nicely done. I think Taylor's had a little bit of that label of, you know, the next one. So there's maybe a little more pressure for him here.
Fritz.
He looks pretty well versed today, doesn't it? Not a bad volley, but again, fairly central in the way Fritz is striking the ball. You've got to take time away. Oh man, that's a good looking hit. Break point.
Juice.
Yeah, that's another thing about Fritz. You don't get a lot of free points. You know, he puts his racket on the ball, gets it back into play. And he demands a pretty high level of himself in terms of returns.
Advantage Johnson.
Stevie was half expecting a call there on the baseline. It didn't come. Calls
First game, second set.
generated electronically here at the US Open. No lines judges on the court. Shrug of the shoulders, but he's got the hold.
Well, that's the start he needed, as you said. You know, get some confidence going, even if it is just a single game. Those are little vital little steps to take. I mean, tennis is so much about confidence, and even a glance over at the scoreboard and seeing your head, even something as small as that, that can count for a fair amount.
Love 15.
It's been the best of years at the majors for Taylor Fritz. I wonder whether that's an element of his season that's frustrated him this year. Second round Australian Open, third round in Paris, second round Wimbledon.
15 all.
For a top 10 player, you probably start the year with, well, much higher hopes than those sorts of results, wouldn't you?
And imagine if he'd win, you know, one more match each week, he'd be top 5. These wins and losses add up over the course of a season. I mean, he already has 45 match wins. It's impressive.
30-15.
One of his goals will obviously get back to Turin, I'm sure, for the ATP season-ending championship. Guessing that's a Djokovic fan.
What was the first clue? You think? I think it was the shirt. I think it was the shirt. Season-ending
championships feature the best 8 players in the world. If you're unfamiliar with the sport, maybe you're new to tennis, watching major for the first time. It's the tournament right at the end of the year. It used to be in London, changed to Turin in Italy. And it's always a target for the top players, isn't it? Qualify for the season-ending championships. It represents consistency throughout the year. It's number 9 at the moment, Fritz, in that list.
Game, Fritz.
Yeah, I think he's in a good position. You know, and last year he played there.
Second set.
He beat Nadal. He beat Felix Auger-Aliassime. He beat Casper Ruud. Lost to Novak in the semis. So he had a good run there. Indoor hard court suits his game well. Yeah, this is a guy who, when he first came up, you know, the questions about, you know, could he be physical enough? Could he be strong enough? Fast enough? You know, I think he's maximized the physical side of his game. And he's built up some strengths around the ground strokes and the serve.
Love 15.
Just quickly going back to that race to Turin, as it's known. 2 players have already qualified, Alcaraz and Djokovic, and then you get down to Medvedev, number 3, Sinner, Tsitsipas, Rublev, Rune, who lost earlier today. That's been the big, one of the big stories of day 1 here in New York. And then Zverev in 8th place at the moment. So he's
15 all.
He's in with a shout. Made Turin for the first time last year. Incredible autumn he had. Incredible Tokyo, week in Tokyo. I happened to be down in Japan that week. He spent the week before, Taylor, locked up in his hotel room in Korea.
That's right.
Having tested positive for COVID. Didn't hit a ball. Arrived in Tokyo Wednesday morning. It's a nice volley. Straight to the practice court. Won his first match on Wednesday evening.
30-50.
A match for the next 5 days. Beat TFO in the final. Won his first 500 and broke the top 10 the next day as well. I mean, just an incredible week for him.
Yeah, that's an argument for not training so hard. Jeez, I'm not going to train if I'm going to win titles. But you know, sometimes that release of expectation, right? That pressure that, oh, I'm ready to go. You know, I haven't practiced. I have no expectation of winning. And if you release that, sometimes you can really play at a high level. It worked for him there.
That's nice.
And this is obviously something he's been working on. Starting to get a little more shoulder turn on the volley. He's tended to be a bit open before. Working with Mike Russell, also known as Iron Mike when he was a player. The guy could play forever. Also Paul Annacone.
Let's first serve.
Annacone, a former player.
Juice.
And Paul Annacone also coached Pete Sampras and Roger Federer. So You talk about valuable expertise. I mean, coaching matters. If someone ever says to you that coaching isn't significant, don't listen. Ask Coco Gauff. Signs on Brad Gilbert 2 weeks before Cincinnati, wins DC and Cincinnati during this summer hardcourt season.
Advantage, Fritz.
It's threatening to turn into a painful service game. Fritz not having had to do much to create break points here. Oh dear, made a mess of the short forehand. Fritz pounces. And that's a rough service game, to be honest.
Fritz leads 2 games to 1 second set.
Beautiful backdrop, isn't it?
Yeah, it's breathtaking, isn't it?
Looks like they're adding one building right in the center of that skyline. See a couple of construction cranes going up.
15 love.
It's the second biggest show court, Louis Armstrong Stadium. Absolute beast of a stadium. You don't actually tend to get a sense of the size of this place when you're watching matches on TV.
30 love.
And as you said, Leaf, you've got the ticketed section lower bowl. There we go. That's a great shot, isn't it? And then the upper tiers, or upper tier of this court, is free to fans with ground passes. So there's some big matches on this court. Fantastic atmosphere. Just over 14,000 capacity, this court. Gives you an idea of the size of it. Arthur Ashe Stadium, just over 23,500.
Game, Fritz.
Yeah, good-looking
Fritz
forehand.
leads 3 games to 1 second set.
And he hits it pretty heavy, but enough topspin right at the end.
Reminder to head to the official website, usopen.org. That's your online home for point-by-point live scoring, highlights, real-time stats, draws. Visit the official tournament site, usopen.org. Particularly useful website to visit on a day like this, where you've got matches galore around the outside courts and all the show courts, of course, day one. 2 or 3 upsets coming in today. Defeats for Sakkari in the women's singles. And as you mentioned, Holger Rune is out, the number 4 seed. And this
Love 30.
half of the draw, so that's going to open up that section for somebody. We've lost Bublik from that little section as well today. He lost to Dominic Thiem, so
Dominic Thiem making a possible run.
yes,
He's familiar with the territory.
former champion 2020.
15-30.
Yeah, lots of discussion about Holger Rune and his court assignment on the day. You know, and as a player, sometimes you allow that to perhaps distract you from going out there and playing a good tennis match, because you got to respect anyone in the draw. And I just think Rune let that become the story instead of just leaving it alone. Let your tennis do the talking.
if anyone missed that, he
15,
posted
40.
a map of the Flushing Meadows
Yes,
grounds,
yes.
didn't he, on one of his social media accounts a couple of days ago when he found out he was on court 5. It was all a little tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, he said, here's court 5 if you want to come watch my match. I didn't know where it was, something like that. And I get it. He's the number 4 seed. You know, maybe he should have had a better court. But now he's out of the tournament, so he can't get to a better court.
Let's for serve.
And let's give credit to Roberto Carballes Baena, the Spaniard, who played well. But in many players' eyes, the Spaniard, not a bad draw on a fast hard court. Anyways, tough loss for the youngster.
Yeah, I think I'm right in saying he hasn't won since Wimbledon, I think. Good defense from Fritz that time, soaking up the power.
Fritz leads 4 games to 1, second set. By
He
1
is
set to love.
flying today. Set and 4-1.
Love 15.
Go out of my way to dwell on any negatives in terms of what Fritz has done today, but I'm trying to get my head around his first serve percentage. He's setting 4-1 up, and he's only making 25% of first serve so far, which is remarkable.
$15 all.
That's a testament, perhaps, to the strength of his second serve. You know, he's been doing a lot of his work on the second, and Johnson just hasn't either recognized that or is unable to do anything about it. Now this will make Paul Annacone happy. A volley like that. That's what Annacone did so well as a player, and obviously sharing those talents with someone like Sampras and Federer. I mean, look at this volley here. That's money right there. Oh, good get by Johnson. If Fritz figures out the volley, he's going to win majors.
Wait, please.
I mean, he's already there, but that would only cement his chances, I think, of winning a major.
40-15.
Yeah, Paul, of course, worked with Tim Henman for a while as well, didn't he? Another
Yes.
guy who liked to come forward and unsettle players with that sort of game style.
And here's another one for you. Paul Annacone coached Dan Evans for a short while.
Yes, good shout.
I want to say 2017. I can't remember exactly.
Game Fritz.
It's just dipped in time.
Fritz leads 5 games to 1, second set.
Cruising through this second set. Yeah, good shout, Leaf. I'd forgotten that, actually. Because Paul was part of the Lawn Tennis Association set up for a while.
Yes.
Got to work with Dan as well, who's gone on to do good stuff.
Boy, has he had a resurgent career after, you know, some missteps in his career. Wonderful variety, recommitted himself physically to the game. All those good things that it takes to be an elite player, and he's there too, getting the most out of his game.
Yeah, champion in Washington this summer.
15 love.
Saying goodbye to a couple of the older Americans at the end of this tournament. John Isner and Jack Sock both announcing
15 all.
that the US Open will be their final tournament, and appropriately they're playing doubles together as well.
And they could win the tournament. They could win the
I mean,
tournament.
what a send-off that would be.
Yeah, that would be something special.
But seriously, I mean, those boys start playing. That's a tough pair, isn't it?
15-30.
Yeah, Saka's won the US Open doubles before. He's also won Wimbledon. Well, what a talent.
15-14.
2 set points. It's been almost as quick as the first set, this second set. 23 minutes for the opening set. Still under half an hour for set number 2. Not much stress in that box today so far.
Game and second sets. Fritz. 6 games to 1.
It is another comfortable one for Taylor Fritz.
2 sets to love.
2 sets to love lead. And opens up the third set.
15 love.
Even more peculiar, those first serve numbers, aren't they, for Fritz, because first serve percentages jumped a touch since we last mentioned it. 35% now for the match. And it's a nice stretch volley, and he hasn't lost a point behind the first serve when he's got it in today.
Yeah, he's got a big serve, lots of pace, lots of power. Pretty good interception there by Johnson. Not much he could do. Interesting, Taylor's first serve 128 miles per hour, his second serve 89, and that's why you've got to make impressions on the second serve. And a good 1-2 combination.
New balls, please. Ball change.
I mean, when you're seeing a second serve come at you at 80 miles an hour, you can be more aggressive. You can hit to a specific spot in the court. 130, you know, you're just trying to get the ball back into play. It's hard to dictate play. So that's why when players and coaches talk about your play off second serve, it's absolutely vital that you get that right and figure it out. It's because it's tough to make inroads on these guys' first serve. They're averaging 125. And when Taylor wants to go top speed, he can go up to 140 if required. But new tennis balls for Johnson.
Love 15.
There's some angle it's created there. To strike early once more in this third set.
15-all.
2 of 19 Americans in the men's draw this year, incidentally, these two guys. It's the biggest number by any nation, as you might expect. France with 16, though. It's a pretty good effort.
15-30.
You know, it's a little surprising has been the drop-off in Spanish players represented. I always feel like Spain and France were always right at the top along with the U.S. But how many guys have they got? Is it 5?
Yeah, just 5, yeah. Yeah, back in the day, that would have been a lot higher, wouldn't it?
30 all.
But they do have the world #1, and he's pretty good.
He's not a bad player. Defending champion, right?
Yes.
Oh boy. And looking at the best matches this year, and I'm thinking, oh, I got 3 or 4 in my mind, and they all have Carlos Alcaraz in them.
He's special, isn't he? Yeah. He's the man we're referring to, of course. Fault called. Alcaraz will get his bid underway tomorrow against Dominic Kopfer. Alcaraz, the top seed as the world #1. Top half of the draw in action tomorrow. That's the men's draw. Bottom half of the women's draw tomorrow.
Game, Fritz.
Another break.
Fritz leads 2 games to love. Third set.
Six times he's broken Johnson now.
Well, it's tough for Stevie Johnson, because I'm sure he sat down with Mark Lucero before the match and had a few ideas about how he wanted to approach the match. There's Mark Lucero on the right, Sam Querrey on the left.
Let toss up.
And I think, you know, every player has their limitations, and, you know, Stevie J's got the one-handed underspin backhand. That can be, you know, a part of the game to attack. And the underspin backhand can be a problem for some players, but Fritz has not had any problems with it, which says something about Fritz, because that's not an easy ball. It's low, it's heavy with spin, but he's handling it no problem. Yeah, but for me, if I were Stevie Johnson, I'd serve and volley first and second ball, and just change it up dramatically. I mean, you're in a pretty rough position as it is, so you've got to try something dramatic. Of course, I used to do that because that way my matches could end faster. I was usually getting killed anyways.
30-15.
When you play someone who's in the form that Fritz is, you have to be ready for everything. And sometimes you just don't have the answer for it. And that's what's happening today. I mean, look at that, 132. Pretty heavy serve.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
40-50.
Still hasn't dropped a point when he's got that first serve in. 17 out of 17 today.
Game, Fritz. Fritz leads 3 games to love. Third set.
Cruising
2 sets to love.
towards the finish line. Fabulous to get this tournament underway today. Day 1, of course, of main draw action, but very much week 2 overall. It's very much seen as a 3-week event now, with Fan Week, as it's known, preceding main draw action. Hugely successful Fan Week the last few days.
15 love.
Qualifying, of course, that fans coming through the gates can watch, but
And it's free.
it's amazing, isn't it?
It's great.
It's amazing.
For
For anyone who lives in this area, you know, has that opportunity to, because it's such a nice facility, this as well. So many, you know, good food to eat, plenty of space. If you've got kids, you don't necessarily have to be quiet as well during fan week, which is a bonus if you're a parent. As I know only too well, but you know, it's a factor, isn't it? You've got young kids, they can run around, they can make some noise if they want. But I read that Wilson have been giving away thousands and thousands of rackets the last few days. Not that one.
No, that's functional rackets, yes. Yeah, I think Wilson's been with the USTA and US Open for 45 years, so they're having a big celebration. That was a nice way to celebrate it, to sort of give back to the community and grow the game, all those good things.
Autograph sessions, Q&As, all sorts going on. Access to some of the practice sessions of the very, very top players, the top seeds. Exhibitions as well through the week. Stars of the Open, that was to raise money for Global Giving's Ukraine Crisis Relief Fund. That was midway through last week. Arthur Ashe Kids Day on Saturday as well. Over 40,000 through the gates on Saturday.
Yeah, that is a wonderful day of celebration about tennis. Johnson with his 5th double fault. Surely he's got to close out this game now. Yeah, that's a bit better. Johnson. It looks a little more familiar as he launches that ball in celebration.
Fritz leads 3-1, 3rd set.
I thought this one was going to head towards the Mets Stadium, just next door for a moment, but not in anger this one, more in celebration. It's a good catch as well. Just quickly remind you to head to all the social channels that we operate here from Flushing Meadows. Stay connected with the US Open on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok and YouTube this year. Join the conversation with hashtag US Open.
Lads, second turn.
There's the address of the official site as well, usopen.org, the social channels.
30 love.
Yeah, nicely done. The American Brandon Nakashima, one of 11 Americans in the top 100. He was beaten today by Laszlo Jada, the number 32 seed out of Serbia. That was 3 straight sets.
Game, Fritz.
Quick fire holder serve for the highest ranked American.
Love.
And stayed low. You're right. Something you were talking about a few minutes ago, how well Fritz has dealt with that slice backhand. It's a shot that can disrupt players' rhythm.
Lads, first off.
And it's the kind of shot, it's below the level of the net. So you've got to get it up and down. We mentioned Roger Federer before, but Roger Federer's underspin backhand, he would use that as a way to get the ball back onto his forehand. And that's something that Johnson does so well, but hasn't been able to do that today. Fritz has been on top of that ball.
Love. Johnson. Fritz leads 4 games to 2, third set.
Just looking at some of the players in the US rankings, the ATP rankings, the American players towards the top of those rankings. It's some group, isn't it? I'm familiar with some of the names. Fritz leading the way. World number 9, Tiafoe in the top 10. At 10, you mentioned Tommy Paul's Australian Open semi-final, Chris Eubanks, great Wimbledon, Sebi Korda, phenomenal talent, and then you've got guys like, you know, Ben Shelton, top 50.
30.
Yeah, Ben Shelton had a win today, and I think he plays Dominic Thiem.
Yes.
In the second round, so that's got the makings of a good matchup for Wednesday.
40 love.
So 3 in the top 14 in the world at the moment. Fritz, Tiafoe and Paul.
Fritz.
Another easy hold.
Fritz leads 5 games to 2. First set.
23 out of 23 behind that first serve today. It's pretty tidy. Game away. 5-2.
Time.
Well, that is a very busy room, and it will remain so throughout the duration of a Grand Slam. That's the stringing room. I think they get through around 600 frames a day, something in that kind of region.
It's a huge total, isn't it? And with the players these days, they'll take rackets in that have been freshly strung, but they've been in the bag, and they don't even use them, and they'll restring those. Doesn't make sense to me.
15 up.
Would you do that? Restring rackets that you haven't used, that are wrapped in a plastic bag in a dry environment.
Tennis players can be very particular, can't they? Maybe
they are very particular.
Maybe it's a sort of superstitious thing at times as well, isn't it?
Maybe.
Routines are very important to professional tennis players.
I mean, I saw a couple of the stringers driving Mercedes-Benz, if that's any. I mean, those guys are doing pretty well these days at these events.
It was ambitious.
30-15.
Some nice feel from Taylor there. That's a nice play, nice move forward, recognising Johnson was in trouble.
30 all.
Yeah, and this kind of play is available for Taylor Fritz. You know, he's just so secure from the back. You know, he feels, why should I come forward? But boy, he starts adding that a little more confidently and comfortably to his sort of repertoire. It's only going to make him tougher man to beat.
Fritz 2 points away.
Oh. 30-40.
26th unforced error from the racket of Steve Johnson brings up an opportunity for Taylor Fritz to seal this. This could be another set under half an hour.
Juice.
Not done just yet. Try and get himself out of this service game, you never know. Oh dear.
Advantage, Fritz.
6 double faults now. Match point number 2. That's a nice way to see it for the US #1. Comfortable today from the very first game, really, against Steve Johnson, who in truth never really got going. Wasn't able to get his teeth into this one.